What if the reason you feel tired, distracted, and mentally scattered is not because your life is too hard, but because your life is too stimulating? Think about it. Every few minutes, we check our phones. We watch short videos while eating. We listen to music while walking. We scroll before sleeping and scroll after waking up. Silence feels uncomfortable. Doing nothing feels like wasting time. Being boring feels like failure. But here's something strange. If you look at people who are truly successful, calm, intelligent, and in control of their lives are actually very boring. They wake up at the same time. They work on the same goals. They read. They think. They exercise. They don't chase excitement every weekend. They don't need constant entertainment. So maybe we've been taught something completely wrong. Maybe the problem is not boredom. Maybe the problem is that we are addicted to stimulation, and it's slowly destroying our ability to think, focus, and live deeply. This is the art of being boring, and why it might save your mind. Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you sat alone, without your phone, without music, without a video, without talking to anyone, and just did nothing? For most people, that moment almost never happens. We wake up and check our phones. We brush our teeth while watching something. We eat while scrolling. We walk with headphones. We work with background music. We relax with Netflix. We fall asleep with YouTube. Our brains are constantly consuming something: information, entertainment, noise, distraction. We are never just present. And at first, this feels normal. It feels like life is full, busy, entertaining. But slowly, something strange starts happening. You can't focus on one thing for long. You get bored very quickly. You open your phone without even thinking. You feel restless when things are quiet. You feel like you're always busy, but not really moving forward. Your mind feels tired, but you didn't really do anything meaningful. This is the paradox of modern life. We are the most entertained generation in history, but also the most distracted, restless, and mentally exhausted. We have infinite videos, infinite music, infinite content, infinite scrolling, but less focus, less patience, less deep thinking, and less inner peace. We are drowning in noise, but starving for meaning. And the biggest problem is not entertainment itself. The problem is constant stimulation. Your brain was not designed to receive new dopamine every 30 seconds. But today, that's exactly what we do. Short videos, notifications, messages, likes, reels, memes, news, music, games. Every time you switch from one thing to another, your brain gets a small dopamine hit. And over time, your brain gets used to this high level of stimulation. Then, something dangerous happens. Normal life starts feeling boring. Reading a book feels boring. Studying feels boring. Working on a long-term goal feels boring. Exercise feels boring. Saving money feels boring. Learning a skill feels boring. Even conversations feel boring. Why? Because these things don't give instant dopamine. They give slow results, slow progress, slow satisfaction. But the problem is, everything that gives fast dopamine usually destroys your focus, and everything that gives slow dopamine usually builds your life. So we end up in a very strange situation. We spend our days doing things that feel good now, but make life worse later. Scrolling instead of building, watching instead of learning, reacting instead of thinking, consuming instead of creating. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, distracted, and mentally tired all the time. Maybe the problem is not that life is hard. Maybe the problem is that our minds are overstimulated and underdeveloped. Because a mind that is always entertained never becomes deep. And this brings us to a very uncomfortable but important truth. Maybe the reason we are afraid of being bored is not because boredom is bad, but because boredom forces us to face ourselves. And that is something most people are trying to avoid. So the real question is not, why is modern life so stimulating? The real question is, why are we so afraid of being bored? Because if you think about it, boredom itself is not painful. Sitting in a quiet room is not painful. Walking without music is not painful. Not checking your phone for an hour is not painful. But for many people, it feels uncomfortable, restless, almost like something is missing. And that's because boredom does something very dangerous. It removes distraction. And when there is no distraction, you are left alone with your thoughts. And most people are not afraid of boredom. They are afraid of their own thoughts. Because when everything becomes quiet, questions start appearing. Am I happy with my life? Am I moving in the right direction? Why do I feel behind others? What am I doing with my time? Why am I not where I want to be? What am I avoiding? What am I afraid of? Distraction protects you from these questions. Stimulation hides these questions. Noise silences these questions. But boredom forces you to face them. This is why many people keep themselves constantly busy, not because they are productive, but because they are trying not to think. Busy makes you feel important. Busy makes you feel productive. Busy makes you feel like life is moving. But busy and meaningful are not the same thing. You can be busy for 10 years and still not change your life. Or you can spend 1 year in deep focus and completely transform it. Another reason people fear being boring is social pressure. We live in a world where everyone is trying to look interesting. People want exciting weekends, exciting trips, exciting stories, exciting lifestyles, exciting social media posts. Nobody posts a picture of themselves reading for 2 hours. Nobody posts themselves waking up early every day. Nobody posts their routine, their discipline, their repetition. But that's where real growth happens, in repetition, routine, and quiet work that nobody sees. We have been trained to believe that an interesting life is a good life, but that is not always true. Sometimes an interesting life is just a distracted life, and sometimes a boring life is a very focused life. There is also an ego problem. Your ego wants attention. It wants to feel special, different, interesting. But growth is not exciting. Growth is repetition. Growth is routine. Growth is failing and trying again. Growth is doing the same boring things for a long time. Mastery is boring. Discipline is boring. Consistency is boring. Going to the gym is boring. Reading books is boring. But these boring things are exactly the things that build strong, intelligent, calm, and successful people. So, we are stuck in a strange trap. We chase excitement to feel alive, but excitement without direction leads to emptiness. We avoid boredom, but boredom is often the place where thinking, creativity, self-awareness, and direction are born. So, maybe the problem is not that life is boring. Maybe the problem is that we don't know how to be alone with ourselves. Maybe we don't know how to sit quietly. Maybe we don't know how to live slowly. And if you cannot be alone with your thoughts, you will always need noise to escape yourself. But the people who become deep, wise, focused, and powerful, they are usually very comfortable with silence, routine, and what the world calls a boring life. And that brings us to the most important part of this video: why a boring life might actually be a powerful life. Let's change the way we look at the word boring. When most people hear boring life, they imagine a life with no fun, no excitement, no adventure, a dull, colorless life. But that's not what a boring life actually is. A boring life, in reality, is often a stable, focused, and disciplined life. Look at people who are truly good at something. Athletes, writers, entrepreneurs, scientists, musicians, thinkers. People who reach mastery in any field. If you watch their daily lives, From the outside, it looks extremely boring. They wake up at the same time. They eat similar food. They work on the same skill. They practice for hours. They read. They think. They train. They repeat the same routines again and again and again. No constant parties. No constant travel. No constant entertainment. Just repetition, discipline, and focus. From the outside, it looks boring. From the inside, it is progress, mastery, and control over life. This is something very important to understand. Extraordinary results usually come from very ordinary daily routines. Not from motivation, not from excitement, not from sudden inspiration, but from doing small, boring things consistently for a very long time. Going to the gym is boring. Reading books is boring. Saving money is boring. Studying is boring. Meditating is boring. Waking up early is boring. But if you do these boring things for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, your life will look completely different from everyone around you. The problem is, most people want an exciting life and a successful life. But very often, you have to choose. Because exciting lives are usually full of variety, chaos, and distraction, while successful and meaningful lives are usually full of routine, focus, and repetition. Excitement feels good in the moment, but repetition builds something over time. Think about this idea. If every day of your life is different, exciting, random, and unpredictable, it's very hard to build anything meaningful. But if many days of your life look similar, you wake up, you work on your goals, you learn, you improve, you rest, then slowly, without even realizing it, you build skills, knowledge, money, discipline, and self-respect. A boring life is often a controlled life. An exciting life is often a reactive life. Controlled life means you decide what you do. Reactive life means the world decides what you do. One more important thing. A boring life protects you from many problems. Less drama, less bad decisions, less impulsive behavior, less comparison, less noise, less distraction, and it gives you something very rare in the modern world: peace, focus, time to think, time to grow, time to understand yourself. So maybe we need to redefine success. Success is not a life that looks exciting from the outside. Success is a life that feels meaningful, calm, and in control from the inside. And, most of the time, a meaningful life looks boring to people who are distracted. So the real question is not, is your life exciting? The real question is your life moving in a direction? Because excitement without direction is chaos. But boring with direction is progress. And this leads us to a very important comparison: the difference between a life of stimulation and a life of depth. There are two ways most people live their lives: not rich or poor, not smart or not smart, not lucky or unlucky. The real difference is this: some people live a life of stimulation. Some people live a life of depth, and these two lives look very different. A life of stimulation is fast. It is full of notifications, messages, videos, music, news, reels, scrolling, constant conversations, constant updates. Your mind is always jumping from one thing to another. You wake up and check your phone. You scroll while eating. You watch videos while resting. You switch between apps every few minutes. You talk to many people, but rarely have deep conversations. You start many things, but finish very few. You are always busy, but rarely focused. At the end of the day, you feel tired. But when you think about your day, you didn't really do anything meaningful. This is the life of stimulation. It feels full, but it is often shallow. Now compare that to a life of depth. A life of depth is slower, quieter, more focused, sometimes even lonely. In a life of depth, you read long books, you think about ideas, you write your thoughts, you work on one skill for a long time. You have fewer friends, but deeper relationships. You spend time alone without feeling lonely. You can sit without checking your phone every few minutes. You focus on long-term goals instead of short-term entertainment. From the outside, this life looks boring. But from the inside, this life feels meaningful and powerful. Here is a very important sentence to remember. Stimulation feels good now. Depth feels good forever. Stimulation gives you quick pleasure. Depth gives you long-term satisfaction. Stimulation gives you distraction. Depth gives you understanding. Stimulation gives you entertainment. Depth gives you growth. Stimulation passes time. Depth builds life. Most people choose stimulation because it is easy, available, and everywhere. Depth is hard. Depth requires focus. Depth requires patience. Depth requires saying no to many things. Depth requires being alone sometimes. Depth requires doing the same thing again and again without immediate results. That is why very few people develop real mastery, real wisdom, real discipline, or real inner peace, because those things are built in depth, not in stimulation. If you keep jumping from one thing to another, from one video to another, from one goal to another, from one habit to another, your life will feel busy, but shallow. But if you choose a few things and go very deep into them, deep work, deep thinking, deep relationships, deep learning, your life may look simple from the outside, but it will feel rich from the inside. So the question you should ask yourself is not, how can I make my life more exciting? The real question is, how can I make my life deeper? Because excitement is temporary, but depth changes who you become. And once you understand this, you can start learning something very important: how to become comfortably boring and quietly powerful. So now the question becomes practical. How do you actually live this kind of life? How do you become boring in a world that is designed to distract you every minute? Because, let's be honest, the world is not going to become quieter. Apps are not going to become less addictive. Social media is not going to disappear. Notifications are not going to stop. So the only thing you can control is yourself. Becoming comfortably boring does not mean you stop enjoying life. It means you stop needing constant stimulation to feel okay. It means you learn how to live, think, work, and exist without always needing noise in the background. Here are some simple but powerful ways to start. First, learn to spend time without your phone. Start small, maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day. Sit, walk, think, write, or just look around. At first, you will feel restless. You will want to check something. You will feel like you are wasting time. But you are not wasting time. You are retraining your brain to slow down. Second, learn to do some things in silence. Walk without music sometimes. Eat without watching something. Sit without scrolling. Let your mind wander. Let your thoughts come. This is where self-awareness starts. Third, create simple routines. Wake up at a similar time. Have a fixed time to work or study. Have a fixed time to read. Have a fixed time to exercise. Routine may feel boring, but routine removes chaos from life. When your routine is strong, your mind becomes calm. When your mind becomes calm, your thinking becomes clear. When your thinking becomes clear, your decisions become better, and better decisions create a better life. Fourth, focus on fewer things, but go deeper. Most people try to do everything, learn many skills, start many goals, follow many plans, and end up finishing nothing. Instead, choose a few important things. Maybe your health, maybe one career skill, maybe reading and learning, maybe building something long-term. And then work on these things again and again, even when it feels boring, even when progress is slow, even when nobody is clapping for you. Because most success in life is not built in excitement. It is built in quiet rooms, boring days, and repeated effort. Fifth, reduce unnecessary noise in your life. Too much news, too many opinions, too many social media comparisons, too many meaningless conversations. All of this fills your mind, but does not improve your life. A powerful life is often a quiet life. A focused life is often a simple life. A deep life is often a boring life from the outside. And maybe that is the goal. Not to impress everyone, not to always be busy and entertained, but to build a life that is peaceful, focused, meaningful, and under your control. Because at the end of the day, the goal is not to have an exciting life. The goal is to have a meaningful life. And to end this video, there is one final idea you need to understand about boring people, and why they often win in the long run. There is something very interesting about the world. The world is full of loud people, loud opinions, loud lifestyles, loud social media. Everyone is trying to be seen, heard, noticed, and entertained. But if you look carefully, the people who actually build things, who master skills, who understand life, who stay calm under pressure, who think clearly, who move forward slowly but surely, they are usually very quiet people. They don't look very exciting from the outside. Their days often look similar. They don't chase every trend. They don't react to everything. They are focused. They are disciplined. They are comfortable being alone. They are comfortable being misunderstood. They are comfortable living a life that looks boring to others. And this is something most people don't understand when they are young. They think life is about excitement, about fun, about stories, about always doing something new, about never being bored. But as you grow older and start understanding life more deeply, you realize something very important. Peace is better than excitement. Stability is better than chaos. Depth is better than attention. Meaning is better than entertainment. A good life is not a life where every day is exciting. A good life is a life where your days have direction, purpose, and inner peace. Learn to enjoy slow mornings. Learn to enjoy long walks. Without your phone. Learn to enjoy reading, thinking, writing, building, learning. Learn to enjoy repetition. Learn to enjoy progress that nobody sees. Because the truth is, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 week, but underestimate what they can do in 5 years of quiet, consistent, boring work. Your life does not need to look exciting to others. It needs to feel meaningful to you. And maybe the real art of being boring is this: you stop living to be entertained. You stop living to impress people. You stop living to escape boredom. And you start living to build something. A skill, a mind, a body, a career, a character, a life. So don't be afraid if your life looks boring sometimes. Don't be afraid if your days look simple. Don't be afraid if you are not always entertained, not always busy, not always excited. Because boring is not empty. Boring is focused. Boring is disciplined. Boring is stable. Boring is peaceful. Boring is powerful. And if you can learn to live a boring life in an exciting world, you will build something most people never build. An extraordinary mind, a calm life, and a deep sense of direction. So, maybe the goal of life is not to be the most entertained person in the room. Maybe the goal is to be the most focused, the most calm, and the most intentional person in the room. And that is the art of being boring. If this video made you think differently about your life, then take one step today, just one, and spend some time in silence, without your phone, without noise, without distraction. You might feel bored at first, but after some time, you might meet someone very important there, yourself.